Good morning. Welcome to Beyond the SEAF Model. I'm Jack Kosar. This is effective for the week of November 18th, 2024. Let's get started. SEAF signals for this week. We have financials, consumer discretionary, and communication services. Communication services replacing technology, which had a bit of a reversal after last week. Jumping down to 22 in the ranking in a neutral status. Communication services with a score of 11, coming into third with decent flows over the course of 3 time periods. Key attribute for this week is financials, really strong with a ranking of 3. That is ranked 1 in each time period across the board. And then consumer discretionary coming in at 2 across the board at a ranking of 6. Very much nice to see some strength here up at the top, especially with this continued run with financials and consumer discretionary after having a little bit of a, frenetic rotation prior to the election. So really nice to see. We are seeing energy, interestingly enough, starting to kind of come out of its dormant stage. Strategic on the 10, tactical month 6, and trading week ranked 3rd. This was after having a score of trading week of 5 last week. So starting to build up a little bit of momentum. Nothing to do yet. We will highlight this a little bit more in the heat map as well as the rainbow chart. But just something key to note, kind of seeing that starting to see some strength into energy. Overall, healthcare remains at the bottom with a 33 overall score, which is the worst score you can have. And utilities continues its slide. Heading into our heat map. Seeing a little bit of a mixture up here, but this nice strong green up at the top is what we like to see. Also seeing a relatively strong red a bit with this 5 on technology. I did want to mention energy. So energy ranked 3rd for the particular trading week. So at a 0.15% increase. For the 3rd rank, that is pretty solid, but we aren't seeing the 2 weeks accumulate quite yet. We are still negative on the trading month and the tactical quarter, so there is nothing to do here as an investment, but just wanted to keep an eye on it as we are starting to see a little bit of momentum build into energy. Financials, really strong, 0.69% for the trading week. Again, strong all across the board. We are really seeing some accumulation in financials, which we will highlight a little bit more, especially in that outperformance portion of the rainbow charts. Other couple of kind of key things to note while we're here on the heat map. We had a pretty strong outflow on Friday, 1.1%, and then subsequently 1.3% outflow out of the entire 11 sector spiders as a whole. So money coming after that kind of big rush of money coming in after the election. We are seeing some money flow out, but we have not erased the election assets. Since the election, we are actually up 3.6% overall in terms of money flowing into the 11 sector spiders. So even after a down week last week, as well as an extreme down day on Friday, we have not erased the money that has flown into the market post-election. So that is interesting to note as we are getting a little bit of a pullback. Today we're actually up 25.43%, but just kind of interesting to see that money flow out and still maintain strong in both financials and consumer discretionary. Onto our rainbow charts. I just wanted to mention energy. We can see energy kind of climbing out of what was a pretty deep void. We have seen this happen in the past, but this is a little bit slower, gradual climb, which is kind of what we want to see. This herky-jerky motions that we see sometimes that we did in October of this year make it for a little bit harder to trust any of these movements, but we are starting to see a little bit of a positive relative outperformance. We do need to break this upper bound resistance that we have, but broadly seeing some nice movement into energy. Like I said, I do like this kind of stepwise coming up as it does promote a little bit more of a sustained move versus the money flowing in and then money flowing right back out on a weekly basis. So we're going to keep an eye on energy. I obviously we want to see it climb up through neutral into favored. Nothing quite here yet, but just interesting setup for energy as we approach the end of the year. Looking at technology. So technology was a signal last week. Technology remains kind of in this really herky-jerky mode that we're seeing in terms of money flowing in and flowing out. Technology was ninth on the trading week with a negative 0.23% outflow. It was coming also with utilities and healthcare, with also having similar percentage outflows for the trading week. We jump into neutral. Tech has really just been sideways, going back several, almost a whole quarter now. Has been sideways in terms of its relative outperformance versus SPY. And as this money keeps kind of jerking in and out of technology, it's kind of tough to track. So we are out of technology, and really there isn't any outperformance to be had at the moment, really sideways. So I guess that's good. Moving over into healthcare, I do like to just point out the way that these things move, both on the positive and the negative side. Healthcare remains a void. It is the deepest void we can have, and there's no life in this relative outperformance. Broke through this support, relative support that we established in July, broke right through that and kind of continues to rip down. So healthcare is a deep void. Into financials, the flip side of things, I like to try to show both, right? So as money is flowing into financials, we see money flowing out of healthcare. We do kind of really see the 11 sector spiders having a push me, pull you relationship, which is why we built the model around them. So as money flows out of healthcare, money is flowing aggressively into financials. It is the top rated that we can have. Has stayed that for a couple of days now, and we are seeing that in the relative outperformance. I'm actually going to have to play with this chart to keep it climbing into the red and avoid some confusion. But seeing some real strength in financials. And like I said, when I showed you guys the heat map from earlier, we are seeing some serious accumulation, dark green across the board. So we're seeing not only are we having strong inflows on the weekly basis, but we were really starting to see some accumulation of assets into the financials, which was resulting in a nice and strong relative outperformance part of our chart. Last but not least, communication services. After what was a real sideways, we had the nice run toward the end of last year in communication services and a little bit of a nice decent run from February to March. But outside of that, we've been real sideways in communication services. Communication services now has broken that upward resistance that we established in January in the relative outperformance part of the chart. We now climb into favored. So, as we saw late last year and early part of this year, communication services does tend to trend real well. It is not as herky-jerky as we see on the technology side of things. So, while we haven't accumulated a ton of assets, it is ranked third with an overall ranking of 11. A continuation of this could show a sustained amount of trend in communication services. Again, I'm not forecasting asset flows. I don't know what the asset flows are going to look like next week, but just kind of keeping an eye on the chart and understanding how these things tend to trend. When we do get up into financials, we do get up into favored, we do tend to have a little bit of sustained time with communication services. We are seeing a nice relative outperformance as we have crawled from a void up into favored. So communication services is SEAF signal this week and is looking relatively strong. That is all I have for this week. I look forward to breaking down the SEAF model with you all next week, and thank you.